Welcome back to another episode of Mennonite Heritage Village at Home. So glad that you could be a part of this as part of the Safe at Home grant that we've been received here at the Mennonite Heritage Village. My name is Patrick Friesen. I'm the development coordinator here at the village, and excited to welcome you to this episode. Jessica Bueller is back this week with another story, this time from another of her great-grandmothers. And it picks up where the last story left off in terms of time and tells about the story of some of the people that stayed in Russia and their time after World War II. And so it is, again, a wonderful story talking about faith and life and love. Also, David Graham is back with another tune, as well as Hali Reimer-Chaplin joins us from PEI, as always, in our Mental Health Minute. And then at the end, stay tuned for a little bit extra footage from a little adventure that I went on. We'll talk about that at the end.
In episode 1 of the Mennonite Heritage Village at Home, I told you the story of my great-grandmother, Sarah Buller. In her autobiography, Sarah tells her story of living through the brutal years of persecution, famine, and the war in the Soviet Union during the 1930s and early 40s. Unfortunately, her story was not a unique experience for a lot of Mennonites during this time. Sarah's autobiography ends in 1954. However, this is where my other great-grandmother's autobiography continues and gives a reflection of what life was like for the Mennonites after the Second World War. So Maria Neumann, born Dick, was born in Nikolaipur, which later integrated into Leninpol, which is situated in the Talas Valley in northwest Kyrgyzstan. She was born during the beginning of the Russian Revolution. On August 22nd, 1917, she was the fourth daughter to parents Johann and Elizabeth Dick. Maria writes that God had given them especially lovely parents who taught them how to pray and memorize Bible verses. However, by the time she went to school, religious teachings had already been forbidden. Due to the heavy indoctrination policy of the communist school system and the heavy punishments that came with not following the regime, Maria's parents pulled her out of the school when she was in her early teens. Child labor was, and unfortunately still is, common in the area, and by the age of 13, Maria was doing back-breaking work, plowing fields and planting turnips. And this work damaged her back to the point where she was bedridden for months and needed to be treated by doctors. At the age of 15, she was sent up into the mountains with her sister to accompany the cowherds as a milkmaid for the summer. Here she worked for 8 years, sometimes living on cheese and milk alone, her clothes not drying out for days in the rainy times. In that first year, Maria met Robert Neumann, who also worked as a milker and was 5 years older than her. They became sweethearts, and 2 years later, just before the start of the new year, on December 29th, 1935, Maria and Robert were married in a small ceremony with immediate family present. The following years, from 1936 to 1944, Maria describes as such in her journal. Shortly afterwards, the great persecution of Christians began. During this time, one felt great lukewarmness and apostasy among the believers. At that time, nobody was safe from prison. A careless conversation or just a song sung in a small family circle were enough to put some people behind bars. It was a cruel time. People were full of boils and ulcers and were malnourished. One's bed was found on straw and wooden boards, and it was full of vermin. What hunger is and how it hurts can only be understood by those who have experienced it themselves. Many children grew up without fathers, and it is impossible to describe this time. But the Lord had always held a strong hand over us and was with us even in this terrible time. During this time, just as with Sarah and Heinrich, Maria and Robert also went through times of separation and extreme hunger. Twice Robert was taken away from his family, first as a believer, and then he went into the labor camps as well. Robert and Maria had 6 children in total. Elizabeth, also called Lily, was the oldest and is my grandmother. Then came Elsa, Gerhard, Jacob, Maria, and Helen. Although Maria taught her children what she had been taught, mainly to pray and the few Bible verses she had memorized as a child, she questioned her faith. Especially in the years after the war, she asked herself if her faith was really a personal one with God or if it was just a lived tradition. But how was she to get any answers when Bibles had been forbidden and preachers had been killed and talking about one's faith was illegal? But then she writes this beautiful passage. In February 1950, we heard of very secret services being held. The room was full. Old as well as young people heard the word of God. After the service, there was an altar call. How long had I longed for this moment? But I still did not find peace that evening. Men that preached the word were locked up again. Many questions burned inside me that no one could answer for me. Others seemed happy. Why not me? Others were also poor and some orphaned, including many sick. And during this time, at the end of the church meetings, a song was sung, which is songbook number 489. There were 99 that safely lay in the shelter of the fold, but one was out on the hills away, far off from the great of gold. Away on the mountains wild and bare, away from the tender shepherd's care. This moved me violently. I imagined I was that sheep with the questions without answers. To this day, I cannot sing or read the song without tears. What hadn't the shepherd done for me? I gave my life to Jesus Christ, and we believed in the Lord Jesus Christ in our home, and we were blessed. In 1956, at the start of the second wave of persecution against Christians, both Robert and Maria were finally baptized. In 1950, Maria also writes about her little boy Jacob. She notes that he loved to sing songs and memorize poems, and Maria's mother had made the remark that he was just too good for this world. And shortly after, he got sick with diphtheria, and in November of 1950, little Jacob died at the age of just 2.5. The pain was great, but the belief that they would see him one day with the angels gave the family hope and comfort. In 1960, Maria and Robert celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary, and of the thankfulness of that day, Maria remarks, "We had many reasons to be thankful. We haven't been blessed with a lot of earthly riches, and the necessary health has been given by God. The food was just enough to survive, and God gave above asking and understanding." In the following years, Maria remarks that her children were married one by one, and after the last one left, she and Robert often spoke about getting old, about days that came more often in which one says, "We don't like them." And soon after, in 1977, Robert was diagnosed with cancer. He died on Monday, the 16th of March, 1981. And after 46 years of marriage, Maria now went on alone. In 1989, when the Soviet borders slowly started to open, many Mennonites, now often calling themselves Russian German, moved back to Germany. Maria followed the course with her family. She remarks in her journal her amazement of how quick the journey went. On the 3rd of August we left, and on the 4th we arrived. Maria settled in Waldbröl, Germany, and found a spiritual home in the local church. 16 years later, to the day, she started her final journey, but this time it went home. On the 2nd of March 2005, she suddenly had a stroke. On the 2nd of August 2005, she suddenly had a stroke. She became unconscious and unresponsive, and on the night from the 3rd to the 4th, Maria quietly passed away. My great-grandmother loved to write little pieces of poetry throughout her life, even though she barely had a 5th grade education, and after her death, this poem was found at her writing desk. It says, "Gottes Wege zum Trost an meine Kinder. Muss es denn sein? O Kinder, warum zagen? Könnt ihr die Führung Gottes heute auch nicht verstehen? Es gibt nicht immer gleich eine Antwort auf unsere Fragen. Doch es ist immer gut, was er geschehen lässt. Es muss so sein. Geht's auch oft wunderlich im Leben zu. Du denkst, ein anderes Los wäre dir gewiss beschieden, das leichter und bequemer ist als dieses, was dir Gott nun sandte zu. Und doch sucht in allem zu verstehen. In Gott nur ist die ewige Ruhe und Gott macht keine Fehler." The translation is God's way, a solace for my children. Does it have to be, "O children, why are you afraid?" Even though you can't understand God's guidance today, there's not always an answer to our questions right away. But it is always good what He lets happen. It has to be. Even when life is often strange, and you think another lot would certainly be yours that is easier and more comfortable than this, which God has sent to you. And yet, seek to understand in everything, only in God is eternal rest, and God does not make mistakes.
There's a land that is fairer than day, and by faith we can see it afar. For the Father waits over the way to prepare us a dwelling place there. In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. We shall sing on that beautiful shore the melodious songs of the blessed, and our spirits shall sorrow no more. Not a sigh for the blessing of rest. In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore.
Well, we are back with Hali Reimer-Chaplin, all the way from PEI. And Hali, it is really good to have you back for our Mental Health Minute. What do you have for us today?
Well, you know what? I think it'd be great for us to all challenge ourselves to try something new. That can be a little bit challenging in these days of COVID, I know, but you know what? Try a new hobby, maybe try a new exercise in your living room if you have space to do that. Maybe try a new food. Do something that challenges you. It's really important for us to kind of push ourselves and challenge ourselves to move beyond where we are, so we continue to grow, even if COVID restrictions are still in place.
Right on. Well, thank you. Thank you. This is really good. We have to keep on trying new stuff, just to keep that freshness, right? Like that is so critical. I know that in our house there's been crocheting being learned. There's someone near and dear to me just bought a van and is going to be transforming it into a motorhome. So that's pretty incredible. All this, recovering couches, all sorts of things. Just learning new skills and trying things out. Thank you very much, Hali. You can connect with Hali at 12stonescounseling.ca. The address is there on screen, and check out her counseling services online as well. Thank you all for joining us again here at the Mennonite Heritage Village at home, and we're so glad that we can bring this to you during this time. We are gearing up at the village for all the different activities that are happening this spring and summer. So it is good for you to, over the next couple of weeks, be checking our website often to be seeing all the different events and programs that are going to be starting. We have stuff for the kids, we have stuff for the adults, we have Tractor Trek is coming back, car show is coming back. Let's see what else. And a special note, kind of following up to our garden talk last week, is that we have the community gardens available. And so if you'd like to book a plot, very reasonable cost for the season, $30, please either phone or email info@mhv.ca or phone us at 326-9661, and we'll gladly set you up with your own garden plot. If there's some people that you know, whether neighbors, whether a family down the street that is looking for a garden plot, we'd love to be able to be a place where they could come and be a part of of life here at the village. So please make use of that. You can find more information on our website. If you look under the Get Involved, there is services. Sorry, under services, you'll be able to find information about the garden plots. This past week, I had an opportunity to go for a little bit of drive and look at some of the different historical sites along basically from the Red River all the way here, and in doing so, took one of the new tools that we have, our drone, out for some flight around some of these different areas. And so we're going to end this video with some of that footage in the background. Hope you enjoy seeing some of these different places.